following is an exclusive presentation of News Radio KMAN, your home for K-State athletics. It's game time. This is The Game on News Radio KMAN.
AJ just mentioned during his weather that later on this week here in Manhattan will potentially be reaching triple digits. Meanwhile, in Vegas, right now in Vegas, they have a weeks-long excessive heat warning, and it's currently 113 with, of course, barely any humidity at all. In Vegas, it feels like 104 because it's like 5% humidity in Vegas. It's that desert, what they call that desert heat.
Brutal.
The logical explanation here, guys, is, well, are we keeping track of where Avery Johnson is, guys? Come on, Vegas, have you never been that close to a star before? His nickname is Sunshine. The sun is a star.
Yeah.
Another thought. You know how we draw a star like the Dallas Cowboys star? Well, the sun is a star. It's a big circle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Why isn't a circle called a star? That's just one of the many questions you could ask at Big 12 Media Days. Welcome to The Game. Mitch Fortner, Trey Coverdale, and AJ Shaw. We got a lot of audio to get to from Big 12 Media Days. Today was the Yormark and Chris Klieman Day. All in one day. That's a lot for the media. It's a real privilege for those people to be there today to listen to not only the Big 12 commissioner, but the 2022 Coach of the Year and Big 12 champion, Chris Klieman, who's now entering his sixth season at K-State, which is now a year longer than he was ever at, as a head coach, I should say. At North Dakota State, his whole coaching staff his top guys are all North Dakota State guys. He's real comfortable at this point at the helm for the K-State Wildcats. And we'll lead off here in just a moment with Chris Klieman. We'll get to Brett Yormark, which, by the way, guys, the Big 12 is still open for business. That's coming up at 5:10. Plus, in hour number 2, 45 through 41, my top 100 TV theme songs of all time. And here in hour number 1, we will have some Jabroni of the week. We had it's 8 coaches today, 8 coaches tomorrow. Let's see, who else did we have today? We had Sonny Dykes kicked it off. TCU. It's like pro wrestling. You never want to be in that second match. Because usually the leadoff is really good, getting the people warmed up. A little bit of a lull in that second match. That third match then is, picks people back up. That's how the Big 12 laid it out. Brett Yormark to Sonny Dykes, third on the list was Chris Klieman. Scott Satterfield from Cincinnati. Joey McGuire from Tech. Kyle Whittingham, who's doing this according to Kels Robinette, who's in Vegas, is doing like this movie villain look today, and I completely agree. Arizona State's Kenny Dillingham, who had one of my favorite quotes today. Mike Gundy of Oklahoma State. Matt Campbell. Let's see, has he been up there yet? I'm sure he has. About 30 minutes ago. Matt Campbell, Iowa State. Finished things off day 1 in Vegas. Let's get to some of my – I'll get to that Dillingham quote here. I'm sure maybe this is the first time you ever heard the name of Arizona State's head coach. He's so young. He looks very young, got the baby face. He looks like he comes straight off from a keg stand. Like he looks like he's a college frat kid. And by the way, Arizona State, you're talking about one of the best party schools and one of the best, when it comes to guy-to-girl ratio, one of the best schools in the nation, major universities. What does he think about the biggest difference from the Pac-12 to the Big 12? And he says going on the road and playing in Big 12 stadiums compared to the Pac-12, because this is not the exact quote, but it's because of the amount of fans. Silent counts are going to be pretty necessary on the road in the Big 12. Wasn't necessarily much of an issue when you're on the road in the Pac-12, especially when you're going like to Stanford or, going to the Rose Bowl.
Yeah, you brought up Rose Bowl. I was thinking Cal.
Cal. There's another one.
By the way, someone did the math. I don't know if you saw this on Twitter the other day. Someone did the math. They realized that all of their road trips this year essentially are almost equal to the circumference of Earth.
Oh, no kidding. For Arizona State?
For Cal.
Oh, for Cal? Oh, well, sure. Yeah. I'm trying to think. Is it Oregon that opens up Big Ten play at Rutgers?
Yes.
Gross.
Right?
Man, Rutgers, you are so lucky to be where you're at. So lucky to be where you're at. But I got a little enjoyment out of that Kenny Dillingham quote.
Sure.
About the silent counts and the stadiums and stuff and playing in louder environments. Yeah, it's going to be quite an adjustment there, boys. Let's see what we have here. This was a great quote. First of all, Mike Gundy, a couple of quotes today. First of all, Ollie Gordon not going to miss any time. That's not a surprise. That was confirmed today by Mike Gundy. And then there was a reporter. He tells Mike Gundy, quote, he's just got to ask him a question, and sets it up all big like that. And the question was about coaching against Deion Sanders. Gundy's reply was, quote, that's it? I thought you were going to ask me about who I was going to vote for in November. Nice little setup there. Nice little finish. Stuck the landing, as they say.
Well done.
We know where he's voting for sure, Mr. OAN. Let's get to Chris Klieman. Again, second coach up there. As a matter of fact, we're going to hear from the players tomorrow. We're going to get some of the player audio tomorrow. But Avery Johnson, I believe, was the first player on the ESPNU set. Chris Klieman was up there first as well. So they got their day done pretty early, and Chris Kleiman's a Vegas guy. Maybe doesn't go as much as he used to back in the day, but he's a big golfer, would go out early in the morning, get to the links, play an 18 or something like that. Maybe not on a day like today when it's 113 degrees, but it feels like 104. But does the ball – it's not as humid, so does the ball carry as well in Vegas?
Yes. Well, football maybe would be a good question. Baseball's yes.
Well, I'm talking about golf.
Oh, golf? Oh, yeah.
Because it's a humidity thing, right?
Correct.
Okay, but in Vegas, they have 5% humidity.
Correct. So in Vegas, they were actually one of the first places minor league-wise to add a humidor after Coors Field did.
Okay.
If that tells you anything about baseball. Because trying to get a feel for, given it's a AAA franchise, trying to get a feel for what pitchers could do was an utter failure. I mean, honestly, you could not get a feel for anybody's pitching because it was home run derby.
Let's start with the offensive side of things with Coach Chris Klieman. Matt Wells working with Avery Johnson. And let's get this audio going. Here's Coach.
There's a great mesh there. There's a great comfort between the two guys. They are on the same page an awful lot. And I know that Avery, as well as our offensive staff, coaches, Coach Riley, our offensive coordinator, are excited about some of the things that Coach Wells is going to bring to K-State, especially in the pass game. And I know that everybody wants to know what the heck we're going to do, but we'll wait until the fall to unveil that. But super excited to have Matt and his family in Manhattan.
I think all of us, me hosting the show, hearing that clip a couple of times, and those just listening to that for the first time, you're probably all nodding your heads just like I was about, I'm kind of dying to see what this offense is going to look like, especially in the passing game, because Matt Wells is a great offensive mind. And I've been pretty vocal about that, and the coaches even talked about this prior to Big 12 Media Day, about the things they can do now on offense. You bring in Matt Wells, who's going to throw in his wrinkles, and the talent of Avery Johnson. It's not one of those things where, they're going to throw in these wrinkles and they're going to have both running backs, Dylan Edwards and DJ Giddens on the field at the same time. It's not because they have to. It's because they want to. A big play. And it all starts with seriously, it all starts with the offensive line, but because they got to take care of the running backs and open up those holes and protect Avery Johnson. And speaking of the offensive line, basically everybody gone from last year other than your everyday starter and Hadley Panzer. Of course, Carver Willis, he started 7 games last year at right tackle. But Cooper Beebe's gone. He's now a Dallas Cowboy. He's about to make the Cowboys even more of a Super Bowl contender, tag teaming with Deuce Vaughn. The O-line leadership, though, is a little bit of a question.
We lost 4 really good senior offensive linemen, but we have 4 really good senior offensive linemen returning, and that's something that maybe goes overlooked a little bit, the value of what Connor Riley does for our offense and for our program and for that room in the offensive line room, to lose the amount of seniors that we had and then still return the amount of seniors. Hadley Panzer, Taylor Poitier, Carver Willis have really taken over the reins from those guys that have left and have tried to keep that engine running. And we've always been really, really good up front.
So a couple of things. One, I think there's a lot about this K-State offense that's being overlooked. But two, yes, I think we have overlooked the amount of experience the offensive line still has. That will be, chalked in right now as the potential starters, and I think most of them will be starters. It's just, the depth, I think, will be a little bit of a question. That's something that will obviously be worked on in the first couple of games. UT Martin, they're going to rotate a lot of guys in there possibly, and and we'll see how that progresses. Andrew Lane Gang, who Klieman always says Line Gang, but I'm pretty sure it's Andrew Lane Gang, who's from up north.
Coaches.
He's played 13 games as a backup. Easton Kilty, who will probably play guard, 35 starts in his career in North Dakota. Hadley Panzer is the returning starter, probably move over to center, and potentially, and 26 career starts. Taylor Poitier, his only problem here, played 13 games last year, didn't start. The previous 2 seasons would be a much different story if he just didn't run into the injury bug 2 years in a row. Prior to last year, 2022 and 21, he played in 1 game. It just injuries kept him off the field. And now he finally gets the opportunity to be a starter on the offensive line. He saw a lot of time last year. I think he had over 300 snaps that he played in last year. He was used a lot, so keep that in mind. 13 games last year, but missing the previous 2 seasons for the most part. I'm trying to think of how that looks to most people. Just a lack of experience. He's had a lot of bad luck. Well, he did play a ton last year, even though he didn't start. And then Carver Willis, boy, did that kid grow. It was a bit rough early, missing some assignments. He needed a lot of help from the other guys on the line, maybe being a little bit babysat. And then I think him more than anybody, I watched his growth, and you could easily tell he was getting better. Just needed the experience. He had to shake off the nerves.
Right.
And now, 24 games he's played in with 7 starts, and those were the first 7 games of last season. So I really, and thanks to the coaching, thanks to the young depth that they should have, and just the experience that this group has, even though it's going to be a much different looking starting offensive line from last year, I really don't have many concerns out the offensive line. I still want to see things play out to fully feel good, and we may not get there game 1 or game 2. It may take a little bit of time, but I think at the very least they're going to get there, and it shouldn't take a long amount of time. Meanwhile, one more thing on the offense, running back. What's the workload for DJ Giddens? And Coach Klieman believes that shouldn't be much different than last year, maybe a little less.
We don't maybe have to rely on him as much. There's some games that we're going to give it to him, and he'd be ready for it. And there's other games where we've got to spread it around more, and we've got to throw the ball a little bit more so that the offense or the running game does open up. And so we got another tailback in Dylan Edwards that's a really good complement to DJ with kind of some speed as well as electricity and elusiveness in the open field. So that's the thing that probably excites us the most, as offensively we have a lot of guys around Avery.
Somebody might have to do the math for me, but DJ ran it 223 times last year. I think that was top 5 in the Big 12 in carries. Total carries last year. He was mixing it up with Trayshawn Ward. And to me, I agree with Coach. It wasn't so much, DJ's the number 1 guy. He's going to get the most carries every game. Really, it was just a hot hand thing. And it could be like that this year, but it's also you're going to have both guys on the field at times. DJ Giddens and Dylan Edwards at times are going to be on the field at the same time.
Right.
So you're going to be able to mix it up a little bit with the playbook, especially with the athleticism and the speed that this group is going to have. I think DJ Giddens is getting overlooked. That's another part of the offense that's getting completely overlooked because you have the addition of Dylan Edwards, who is a Kansas kid. I can't see that, AJ. And also, are you trying to show me the stats? What do you want to show me?
Yeah, I was going to say DJ was tied for fourth for carries for last year, tied with Amani Bailey of TCU. R.J. Harvey was 3, Ollie Gordon 2, Taj Brooks 1.
Here's the big part for me about Dylan Edwards joining this group, because Avery's an electric runner, but he's, you're not going to chalk it up for him to run the ball all the time. You're going to protect him. So you're going to put most of that workload on DJ and Dylan. The thing for me about Dylan is that he can do it in the passing game. He can do it in the running game. The same thing that DJ can do as well. It's just, it's more options. And I'm going to make the comparison to KU here, because if it wasn't for Dylan being on the team, I would still say KU actually probably has the better running game. If, Jalen Daniels is healthy, the top 5 rushers in the Big 12, they're all back from last year. The Big 12 is pretty deep at running back. And I think because of that, I think Devin Neal's being a little bit overlooked, although he's very good. One of the best runners in the country at yards per carry. But Ollie Gordon is back. Taj Brooks is back of Texas Tech. R.J. Harvey is back at UCF. Devin Neal and DJ Gins were pretty close to total yards from last year in the running game. But because of Dylan Edwards, I think he puts K-State over the top of KU. K-State's running game is going to be better than KU's. It just comes down to who's healthier. And I would definitely say K-State's got more depth behind their top 2 running backs. KU does not have the same depth behind Daniel Highshaw and Devin Neal.
I still say one of the big points of the K-State KU game a year ago was the going away from running the option. KU was having success running the option in part because Neal was able to carry the ball, and it gave K-State fits because they were having to rely on the either-or. And once they went to just Neal running the ball, it changed the face of that game.
Cat's going to get that triple option going with your 2 running backs.
By the way, a former employee here is getting ready with his triple option offense for taking you on EA 25.
Oh, are they?
Yeah.
Talking about Mason?
No, Colby.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He's putting together the triple option in his package when he gets the game.
Let's take a break. We got more from Klieman when we come back, and that includes a little bit on the defense. Breaks down the deepest positions, he feels like, with the depth. They're both on the defensive side of the football. And is he excited about college football 25? That's coming up next on The Game.
Miss part of the show?
No! God, please, no! No! No!
Really? Check it out on demand at 1350kman.com. You're listening to The Game on News Radio KMAN.
Quick question. Is anybody worried about K-State's defense because Daniel Green, Khalid Duke, Nate Matlack, Kobe Savage have all moved on?
Wow.
A little bit.
Like, do you have concerns that K-State's defense won't be as good this year?
A little bit, because there's a lot of unproven guys, I feel, on that defense that are going to be getting a bigger role this year.
Jake Clifton is not going to play this year.
No, he's not.
That's another name I should probably throw in there, that he may have been the starter at Mike linebacker.
He's on like a religious thing, right?
Doing his
Mormon
2-year
mission.
Mormon mission.
His mission. Yeah. So
Maybe
he's
2
out
years.
2 years.
They're typically 2 years. Yeah. Let's see. Maybe is there anybody else I should, throw in there?
Is Desmond Purnell coming back?
Purnell's back.
Okay.
VJ Payne, Marquise Siegel, Austin Moore.
Jacob Parrish is back.
Jacob Parrish, which, by the way, those guys I just mentioned are 5 of the 6 leading tacklers from last year.
Oh,
That's true. Very young secondary, but a very talented secondary, for sure.
It's very talented. And Coach is going to get to that here in just a moment. But I don't have the concerns that I think people do. I wanted to say most people, but I don't know if I don't have enough information to say that's a fair, estimate on how many K-State fans are out there that think the way some do, that K-State's defense may take a step back this season. I don't think they do, and we'll explain further as we play these clips here. More from Chris Klieman from today's Big 12 Media Days, day number 1. He was the second coach at the podium today. And some of these clips, as we get more into Chris Klieman, also took some from K-State Online, who interviewed him earlier today. They allowed me to use their audio. Here's Chris Klieman on the deepest positions he feels like K-State will have this season.
We have more depth in the D-line and secondary than we do any other spot. So those two positions we have, you don't ever want to get anybody injured, but if you lost somebody, we have more depth there. And we've focused on that. We've always been deep in the defensive line, but when we got Mott and Stufflebean and Uso to all come back, that gave us tremendous depth, as well as all those young kids that are really good players. The Chidi Obiizors and Jordan Allens, Ryan Davis, and those guys. Those kids are going to be really good players, but allows us to maybe implement them a little bit slower.
I think K-State would be in a little bit of a different situation if they didn't get the return of some guys that could have graduated and moved on. Austin Moore is one of them. Cody Stufflebean is another one. Just a couple of examples. Austin Moore is going to be the heartbeat of this defense this season. He was your leading tackler last year, not just tackles, but in tackles for loss. He had 12.5, which by far led the team. I think Nate Matlack was in second with 7.5 on the team. Maybe Khalid Duke. All three of those guys could eat up some tackles for loss, but Austin Moore was the best there. And honestly, last season was a down year for sacks. Just 25 last year. And K-State got hot there early, just didn't have a whole bunch. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but just didn't have a whole bunch in Big 12 play. But they were still a pretty solid defense. Got the interceptions going, started forcing some turnovers after a while. That was a big adjustment. That was just something that had to start happening, and it certainly did so in the UCF game. So the defensive line in the secondary, let's just take a look at this for just a second. Because you have Cody Stufflebean, Brendan Mott, who, could potentially assume that there'll be some starters next year. Toby Osunsanmi has moved down. He's going to be downstairs now on the defensive line. And I could throw a bunch of young names out there. And I'm talking just ends right now. Chidi Obiizor, I think, is a guy that can move inside, and I think he may still do so, but also play. I'm not sure what the plan is with Chidi, but ever since he signed, I have just been so ready to watch him play because that is a gifted athlete. And K-State has upgraded their recruiting when it comes to guys with size to play the defensive end position. They're getting more NFL-like, NFL caliber, NFL size defensive ends. Jordan Allen is another example, and what they have in common is they're young. Redshirted, they're going to be redshirt freshmen. You're going to see them both on the field this year. Travis Bates, how much does he play this upcoming season? There's a number of names I could start mentioning, but Bates is a transfer, Austin P. And then at nose tackle, the Uso Damian show, Eli Leo and Sayamalu. You're going to see more Damian on the field this year. But it's also big. It's pretty big that Uso Sayamalu is back this season. And by the way, one more name we need to mention. And I'm not quite sure what position he's going to play, but he's going to be on the defensive line. It's also a big difference that Malcolm Alcorn Crowder, the transfer from Butler, was able to figure out whatever needed to be figured out. Because at one point, he was coming to K-State. It was almost like, remember Reggie Stubblefield?
Yes.
Coming from Texas. I'm blanking now. Prairie View.
Believe you're right.
He was coming, and then he wasn't coming, and then he's coming. That's what happened with Malcolm. I maybe it was an academic thing. I'm not exactly sure. But now that he's here, that's a gifted athlete. And he will be, I'm sure, in the rotation at some point. I just don't know right now what position. I think he could play in multiple positions on that defensive line if K-State does sneak in a little 4-man front. And then in the secondary, I couldn't be higher about this duo at corner. Could not be higher. And nobody has been more thrilled about the growth of Keenan Garber at that position ever since he was thrown into the mix with a day and a half of prep for the Big 12 championship game when Echo Boydo got hurt. And Keenan tore it up. We talked about a couple of things that's overlooked about the offense. Keenan Garber is overlooked.
Absolutely.
I think he is one of the best one-on-one corners that the Big 12 has to offer. Him coming back for his last year of eligibility is huge. Opposite of him is still the growing and blossoming Jacob Parrish, who excelled last year. I thought he did a great job. VJ Payne is back there at safety. Marquis Siegel is back there. It's the jack safety position that's going to be really fun to watch because that's also a deep position. But I would bet that the rotation right now when it comes to the two deep is Jordan Riley and Jack Fabris. Jack played a very limited amount of snaps last year, but he did enough to really impress me. And it happened like the first play he was out there in game 1 last year. He just went and hit somebody. I was like, and Wyatt Thompson was so right about him. And Jack Fabris with the recruiting class last year, for the freshman last year, he was looked at as being one of the bottom players on that class. Mm-hmm. And he became one of the best, even though his time was pretty limited. And then Jordan Riley, and I think Jordan could be just as good as Kobe. Playing that jack safety position when it comes to a headhunter type of safety, wanting to go hit somebody in a flat, go make a tackle for loss. Jordan Riley can be that good. Let's see, we got a couple more clips here from Chris Klieman. A couple of things about a couple of things that don't necessarily have to do with his team. And it's about the conference schedule and how he would like to see the conference schedule change in the future.
I'm hoping we ultimately get to an even number of conference games so that we're not on the 9-5 away, 4 at home. Then it's more of a 4-4 split of 8 games or even a 10, because if you're going to have to play a Power 5, you might as well play it in your league.
I don't know if I have a ton of reaction to this. It would be interesting if K-State or the Big 12 did go to 10 regular season conference games, especially with a 12-game season. Mm-hmm. But right now, the Big 12 has a rule that when you schedule your non-con, you must schedule a Power 4. There has to be one in your non-con. I wonder if they did go to a 10-team or a 10-game conference schedule, if that were to change.
Boy, here's the thing I don't like about the thought of going to the even. You're already going to be dealing with tiebreakers that are onerous in a 16-team conference when you play 9 games. Tiebreakers when you go to a 10-game schedule are just going to become that much more onerous because you're playing to an even number. At least with an odd number, you've got an automatic tiebreaker. A 5-4 team is better than a 4-5 team in your rankings.
Well, I didn't think about it that much. I don't. Maybe 8 games. I mean, the Big 12 used to be that way.
Yeah.
But it was back when there were divisions.
Also, yes.
So, and then, when college football expanded to a 12-game regular season, K-State had 4 non-conference games. I don't know. Maybe if you were to go like a 10-game regular season for the conference regular season, and you go 5-5, maybe it's a little bit more easier to control your. You could always schedule 2 home games.
Here's the flaw. Then on top of that, you're down to
non-con?
You're down to 2 non-con.
Doesn't hurt your resume, I'm sure.
I'm just pointing out that there are only 2 non-con, and I know that there will be a lot of coaches who are against that idea because essentially your non-conference is your preseason.
All right, one more clip here from Chris Klieman. Is he excited for College Football 25 to come out in 9 days?
I did not know that it was going to be out here until the guys were talking about it on the plane out here. I'm interested to see it because I haven't seen the college version for how many years, right? So I know our guys are excited about it. I'm interested to take a look at it. I probably won't be playing it a whole lot, but I'm interested to watch over somebody's shoulder for a little bit.
Man, Chris Klieman kind of living under a rock there a little bit. Here's what I've been really jealous about is so EA Sports is there. College Football 25 is, I want to say on display. They're just like, they have the logos on display. They like set up this little locker room, which, by the way, somebody misspelled Cincinnati on the plaque or the the title above the locker. Cincinnati is spelled wrong, and Cincinnati fans were all up in arms about that. But the players in a private area get to play the game today.
Nice.
I'm pretty jealous about that. They're not allowing the media back there. They're not allowing maybe coaches back there, whatever. Maybe Klieman did get to watch a little bit of the game today. Kellis Robinette reported that, let me see here. Let me pull this up here real quick. That Avery Johnson, I got to find this real quick. Sorry, bear with me. I lost it just moments ago because Twitter decided to update, and I lost the tweet.
Right.
Where I had it saved here on the old desktop computer. Let's see if I can find this real quick. So Brendan Mott and Avery Johnson played a half game, and Brendan Mott beat Avery 8-0. It was K-State versus K-State. Jace Brown with the scoring touchdown. A timeout. When we come back, we crown a new Jabroni of the Week after these words.
Your home for K-State sports.
Underneath. Blocked by Sundell on Gaston. Final few seconds on the fray. Walker. Three-pointer. Got it!
This is The Game on News Radio KMAN.
Olin, shut your mouth, you jabroni! You jabronis hit the jackpot!
The Hollywood blonde jabroni, Hulk Hogan.
Ow! Is this jabroni's name?
Jabroni of the Week.
Mentioned at the top of the show that Kenny Dillingham is the head coach at Arizona State. Of course, Arizona State joining the Big 12 this summer. And he had mentioned that a big adjustment from the Pac-12 to the Big 12 is playing in full stadiums, and especially being on the road, and you have to use that silent count. I'd mentioned he looked like he was just fresh off a cake stand. He looks really young. I don't even know where he went to school, but I did a quick Goog, and he's 34. He is 3.5 months older than I am. That explains why he looks so young. He has like a 2-year-old kid. That's it, and a wife, of course.
So, yeah, I mean, from your judgment, yes, he looks young, says the 34-year-old.
Looks younger than I do, I think.
I get your point, making sure to sell yourself as looking young there.
It just feels crazy that we have 34-year-olds as head coaches at the FBS level.
He played at Arizona State, by the way. He did play at ASU.
Did he play there?
Yeah.
Man, I'm not a fan of hiring legacies as head coaches. I don't even know if he's a legacy. He's just
nope.
So
I think Mitch is jealous.
His whole reputation is their head coach.
I think you're just jealous, man.
Jealous? I don't think I'm jealous. I mean, I wasn't a college football player, so I don't think I was destined to be a head coach. I knew I wanted to be in broadcasting for a long time.
Well, you were like NCKL second team though, right?
Boy, you had to bring up a sour subject there. I should have won NCKL honorable mention.
Tore his ACL his senior year of high school. And so went ahead and just moved into coaching. So he didn't even play at Arizona State. He became an assistant.
Oh, wow. How about that? Okay. Cool. Neat. Hey, speaking of awards, the Gamey Awards return on Friday. We'll have our official 2024 Gamey Awards, and by the way, the nominations will be announced on tomorrow's show. Thursday is No Stone Unturned. Eric Wolford will be in studio on Thursday at 5 o'clock to talk No Stone Unturned. He'll be bringing in some special guests. I don't want to say anything for sure yet. I've heard one name. It's a name we've talked to a lot, but we haven't had him in studio. So looking forward to that conversation. All right, let's get to Jabroni of the Week. You guys know how this works. 3 dishonorable mentions. I'll culminate with my Jabron of the Week. My first dishonorable mention is Patrick Bertoletti, or however you say his name, he won the Nathan's hot dog eating contest.
Okay.
He downed 58 hot dogs in 10 minutes. But he's a jabroni to me. He just couldn't escape Joey Chestnut. Joey was not participating in the Nathan's because, he decided to team up with a vegan hot dog or whatever.
Yes.
And so he wasn't invited to participate this year. But he still competed against troops from Fort Bliss, and he ate 57 hot dogs in 5 minutes. What tells you very easily is that Joey Chestnut would have crushed Patrick.
Absolutely. Along with the hot dogs.
My second dishonorable mention is going to go to Texas baseball coach Jim Schlossnagle, because the day after, less than 24 hours after Texas A&M lost Game 3 of the College World Series Finals, he leaves Texas A&M for Texas. Of course, if you're an A&M fan, if you're a member of the staff, an AD, a president, you're probably a little bit bitter about that, especially how he basically said that a member of the media was being disrespectful or whatever for even bringing that up after his team just lost a national championship game. Mm-hmm. And then less than 24 hours later, he leaves College Station for Austin. Well, President Mark Welsh of Texas A&M just a few days ago announced that Michael Early is going to be their new head coach, and they had an introductory press conference. And Mark Welsh opened up the press conference by saying, let me get this pulled up here real quick. He kind of took a shot at Schlossnagle because he was speaking about Early. He says, quote, "He loves his family. It took Michael about 30 seconds into our meeting to mention Lisa and the kids. People who love their families tend to be loyal, and so do Aggies. Jim Schlossnagle took the job at A&M because he just finalized a divorce. He was leaving his wife.
Oh.
And needed a fresh start."
Ooh.
So, a little bitter. My last dishonorable mention, Team USA and bad officiating, I think they can just be kind of thrown into one, but it's really more Team USA and Greg Berhalter. Copa America, group play against Uruguay. They're about halfway through the second half, and Uruguay scores, but it should have been offside.
Correct.
They VAR it, and it turns out that it stands, which it shouldn't have stood. VAR did not do its job on that. So there's part one of this jabroni for Team USA. And then Team USA lost 1-0 in the match. Mm-hmm. The previous matchup, they had a red card in the 20th minute against Panama. They end up losing that match. Mm-hmm. Team USA played themselves. Forget about the offside that wasn't called. They still had plenty of time to put a goal on the board. They could not get out of group play on their home soil for Copa America, and Greg Berhalter still has his job.
Proving again that American soccer is never going to be anything on the men's side. Let's just be perfectly honest about it. It just isn't going to happen. As much as we try to make it a thing, American soccer just isn't going to do it.
It's too corrupt anyway.
Well,
I don't know if I want American soccer to be anything. It's too corrupt.
Yeah, there's that as well.
My Jabroni of the week, though, this was a pretty easy one for me. Have you heard this story about boxer Ryan Garcia?
Yes.
He has been banned from the WBC because he went on a racist rant on Twitter, dropping N-bombs like crazy. And because of that, the WBC, the World Boxing Council, has banned him for life from boxing. That was a pretty easy one this week.
Yeah.
Hour 2 of the game. When we come back, Brett Yormark, the commissioner of the Big 12, speaks at Big 12 Media Days. How the Big 12 is getting better is coming up next. You're listening to The Game on News Radio KMAN.